All right, ladies, we're going to talk about women hormones and ketones. And I'll be the first to tell you I'm not a world renowned expert in female hormones, but I'm pretty well diversed in it. And I did listen to a podcast about it. I'm just kidding. Most of my audience over my career, I worked with some of the really cool world class athletes, CEOs of some of the top companies in the world. But it's usually middle-aged women going through some hormonal changes and challenges. They're the bread and butter of your practice, and they're the ones that spend most of the money and or put the most effort in. They're the ones that try the hardest, but yet seem to have the biggest mountain to climb. And so I'm going to kind of give you some of the simple things that I want you to think about, but also I want you to realize is that the female hormone world has been the most complicated, and not that it's needed to be. It's just that there's some studies that happened in the 90s that kind of messed up the female hormone world and is misrepresented studies and I can maybe send a link down below in this video of some of the research behind that and some of the new studies that are showing that was wrong, and it really set behind the female world hormone component, and it complicated it all, and we need to change that because these hormone changes are real. And there's a lot you can do about it, but there's also a part that you can participate in. What's your role in this whole thing? And I'll give you an example of my testosterone. But I took a year before I went on testosterone to try to bring up my own testosterone naturally through the means that I would normally do for somebody that is an aging male that is maybe has low testosterone. So let's do the work to bring it up naturally the best you can. And I did that. And for 1 year, my numbers didn't change much at all. So it suggested that it's probably not going to change. And I was really dialed in for that year. I cut out alcohol. I cut out all carbs and sugars, the excessive carbs and sugars, especially the simple ones. I exercised. I worked out. I slept. I reduced my stress. I meditated. All these things. It didn't change at all. And the reality is I was just still going down. So by implementing testosterone, I kickstarted my system back up, and I realized what it felt to be manly again and strong again. I was like, holy cow, this is what I missed. And I tell this story because what I did first, instead of just jumping to the hormones, I actually see what can I do about it. Now, once I started taking testosterone, I still kept doing the things to help optimize my own hormones. And so when it comes to women, one of the things I actually recommend is find a doctor. Now keep this in mind is whoever you're working with may not be that diverse in hormones. You may have to find a few doctors, the one that's willing to work with you, that's maybe getting caught up on some of the new research. It's not even new, that just understands the old and understands the new, because the research is actually primarily there. It's just that's been aware of that research and work through that. But also, what can you do in this journey of hormones? What is your job in the whole thing? And mentor of mine said something, one of the top strength and conditioning coaches in the world, he always talked about the mother of all hormones is insulin. And that's what his whole thing was. Well, you can impact insulin by how much carbohydrates you eat, for the most part, and your exercise and how you work out. And these are things that you have control over. And so one of the things I encourage women, no matter at what age, I mean, they're taking young girls, a lot of young women go on birth control for hormone control, not for birth control, or maybe both, right? Well, if you're already having hormone imbalances at 13 or at 12 or at 11 sometimes or at 16, well, if you cover it up with a hormone, well, then you have to deal with it later. And that's what happened to me. I was dealing with all these ladies in their 20s, mid-20s to early 30s trying to have kids, and they're having a hard time with it because they've been covering up with birth control for 13 years. They covered up the hormonal problem they had then. And then now we have to try to fix it all and get that person healthy again, and it's complicated, right? So we spent a lot of hard hours, not me. I mean, I had to work hard, but they emotionally had to go through this journey. So what can you do to improve this is, number one, you got to start exercising. You want to get better. You got to get stronger. Build muscle. It's super important. Ladies, you got to build muscle. And it's got to be real exercise. It can't be just nice and easy walking. You got to go out and start moving your body. You got to build muscle. Now, are you going to become a bodybuilder? No. But you got to get stronger. If you can put a pound or 2 pounds of muscle on, it'll change your life. One of the things I still use our ketones, I use it with everybody, is that it helps with sugar and carb cravings. We got to bring our we got to be more carb appropriate for you. That's going to be different for everybody. I also use intermittent fasting strategies, not long-term fasting, but intermittent fasting. So monthly, I like to implement intermittent fasting, maybe before your cycle, after your cycle, depends on how your system's responding, so that you can maybe get more control and keep insulin more regulated, so that your blood sugar is not so up and so down. You're not binge eating and carb binge eating all the time, causing your hormones to get out of whack. which then correlates into cortisol and stress hormone issues, right? Now, I can't tell you it's not to worry. I can't tell you don't stress. Stress is all around us. And I'm hard pressed to tell people just not to worry or, you just got to deal with it. You got to figure it out. No, you got to get tougher. And I'm talking to you, I'm talking to young men, I'm talking to old men, I'm talking to everybody. We got to get tougher. Listen, the world's not, we live in the best world ever. But stress is a real thing. And that's not my specialty, by the way. So I recommend following other people for that. But at the same time, it's one variable that's impacting our hormones. And why I like ketones so much is that ketones help with mood. It helps with some of that stress management. But you still got to deal with some of the stuff that you got going on in your life. So you got to take care of that yourself. But ketones help with the blood sugar. It helps with cravings. It helps with appetite. It's going to help with the fasting strategies that maybe you should implement. It's going to help with the energy so you can go work out. So it's setting you up while you're working with your doctor on the other hormone side of things, which are very complicated. Now, complicated meaning that it's just not a lot of people are really understanding the diversity of what you may need to do if you need to start supplementing exogenous hormones. Because like to apply estrogen, you can do it in like 6 different ways, and one might work better for you than others. So if you work with a doctor who only does it one way and that's not the right way, doesn't mean estrogen's bad. It just means that way was wrong. Same thing with progesterone and even testosterone. So like I said, that can be very complicated, and I'm very passionate about that. It's just not my specialty. My specialty is, what do you do in your day-to-day life to address these issues? And what you do is you got to exercise, you got to eat better, and you got to work on your mindset, right? Well, ketones are just a tool that helps you work on your mindset, helps you eat better, and helps you exercise. That's why I like the tool so much. It sets you up for success so that when your doctor works on their side, you're in a better place to receive whatever they're doing. So that's how it all works.